Hello everyone from Flying 10 Flying Club. I just want to give a brief introduction to our audio panel, which is the GARMIN GMA 345. Please refer to the official documentation that you can find on our website or through the Garmin website for more details. To start off, we have two main audio knobs on the left side for the pilot and on the right side for the co-pilot. If you notice, we do have an inner and outer knob. So on the inner knob, it is an intercom system for both your voice as well as all passengers, with a detent to turn the audio panel all the way off if you turn it fully counterclockwise. And the outer knob is for the music functionality, so that is the Bluetooth through either your iPhone or iPad to play for-flight alerts as well as any music you'd like to listen to. Then we have the COMM microphone, so that is to transmit to the COMM radio, which is the top radio, and as well as COMM microphone, so that is transmitting to COMM, which is the bottom radio. Then we have the COMM and COMM receiving buttons, so that is to receive any transmissions from either the top or bottom radio, and you are able to select both COMM and COMM, so that's of course if you wanted to listen to Goodyear Tower and the ATIS, and if you have a stereo headset, which is recommended, you'd be able to hear the different radio transmissions in each individual ear. So COMM would be on the left ear and COMM would be on the right ear. It is important to note that our TKM radios have only one audio output for the COMM and NAV. That means for the top radio, the COMM and the NAV are both routed through COMM, and for the bottom radio, the COMM and NAV are routed through COMM. That means that NAV1 and NAV2 buttons on the Garmin audio panel are not being used. One of the most common issues we hear from time to time are issues regarding interference or static noise, and the most common culprit is if the NAV volume is up, you start hearing that VOR static or interference bleeding through into the COMM that you're trying to listen to. So be sure that the NAV volume is all the way down when you're not actively trying to identify a VOR. The speaker button activates the overhead speaker if you're wanting to listen to transmissions through that rather than your headset. And then we also have the telephone/pairing button. Just pressing it once will allow you to communicate through your phone via Bluetooth if you wanted to take a phone call, and pressing and holding the button will activate the pairing mode in which you can pair your device to that Garmin audio panel for Bluetooth functionality. Towards the bottom, we have a music selection button, and that switches through the different music inputs that we have. 1 and 2 are not being used, so really you want that to show under the bottom selection, the Bluetooth icon. And then right above it is a music button, and that activates or deactivates being able to listen to any music through your Bluetooth. So you'll want to make sure that if you wanted to listen to music or use your for-flight audio, then you want music selected at the top and make sure the Bluetooth icon is selected on the bottom. And then we're getting into isolation. So that is through the intercom system. If you select pilot isolation, then that means you will only hear your own voice within the plane, as well as, of course, any COMM or NAV that you're listening to. If you select crew, then that means you'll only be able to hear yourself and the co-pilot and not the two people that may be sitting behind you. Last but not least, aux1 and aux2 are not being used. Now we will take a deeper dive into our TKM MX300 radios. The first knob that you see is the master volume switch for the COMM, which does have a D10 to turn the nav COMM all the way off, or you can rotate clockwise to turn the COMM volume louder or counterclockwise to turn it down. Right below the COMM volume is the nav volume knob, which you can rotate clockwise to turn up or counterclockwise to turn down. Like I said before, please make sure it's all the way turned down if you're not actively trying to identify a VOR. The top knob adjusts the selected standby frequency by increments of 1, and the bottom knob adjusts the selected standby frequency by increments of 0.05. If you need to change the frequency by increments of 0.025, then you will need to press the separate button labeled 25. So as an example, I'm going to manipulate the standby frequency COMM1 from 121 to 122. This top knob is adjusting the whole numbers up or down, and the bottom knob is changing that decimals every 0.05. An example of the 0.025 switching, we start at frequency 121.7. Pressing it once goes to 121.725. Pressing it the second time goes to 121.75. The third time is 121.775. And then pressing it for the fourth time resets it all the way back to 121.7. The little tick mark that you see next to the standby frequency is showing you which frequency you're actively changing, whether that be the COMM or the nav frequency, and pressing that N-C button is what switches that cursor from COMM to nav or nav to COMM. So pay special attention to where that cursor is before you try to update your standby frequency. Moving along to the left-hand side of the radio controls, the top left button called COMM is the button to swap your standby and active COMM frequency. The button right below that, which is called Test, is your squelch to verify receiver operation and to receive any weak signals. Below that is the nav button, and similar to the COMM button, this nav button swaps the standby and active frequencies. And the final button is the VC-ID button, which is used to select a tone filter in order to receive voice signals on the nav receiver. And that wraps up all the important functions of our Garmin audio panel and TKM nav COMM. Again, please refer to our website for further documentation. Thank you.